There.
There it is.
Walker? Chris? It's good to see you.
Chris?
Mom. Long time no see.
Hail to. Not that I'd want to.
Look, I get it. No, you don't. Okay, we're surviving here. Rebuilding.
Welcome to the team. Ready.
Remember, they're hunting you as much as we're hunting them.
So I think that most civilizations that don't get, taken out by the Great Filter, I think it gets to a point where, like, the resources required to go out into space are so much more vast than the resources required to just maintain homeostasis on your own planet. And then the technology is advanced for like artificial intelligence and virtual worlds, that the need and desire to actually venture outside of your relative space is nil, right? There's nothing. And I think that's just the normal like progression of any sort of species that's going to be out there under similar circumstances. It'd be anything like us, right? This is, you eventually get the ability to create your own universe. Why would you need to go explore the one that you're in? It's just the path of least resistance, right? It's so much easier to adopt on a wide scale. So I don't think we've been visited by anybody. I don't think there's anything particularly special about our planet other than it's suited for the beings that grew up on it. I don't think we were brought here. I think our evolution was 100% based around the idea that this is the environment that we live on, right? Like, if it was a lava world, we'd be lava people. I don't think we were placed here because it was good for us. I think we're good here because we were like evolved here, right? That's just normal. So I have no reason to think that on a planet under similar circumstances, which there are a lot of, the chances that something similar, I don't think there was anything special about it. It's just when you discover fire and how do you use it, and you eventually become smart, right? And then you evolve to be smarter, and you evolve to be smarter because being smarter gets you laid more, and lets you have more babies. And that's just, we're the brain tree of the. Look up Tier Zoo, honestly. Tier Zoo is a really good resource. Yeah. So, being as that sentient conscious life is probably one of the rarest fucking things in the universe. If there's anything above that, then the Earth is definitely a farm for that, right? And that's why I'm okay to die, because I believe that the kind of person that I am and the type of personality that I have, if there's something worth saving and going to after, then I'm gonna fucking be there. And if not, then fuck it, Who gives a shit? I'm not gonna be around to give a shit. So,
Let's hit the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody's playing video games on other planets. They have no reason to come here, and anybody who does give a shit is just farming the worth of shit souls, or fucking, life force or personality or, sentience. There's tons of life all over the fucking universe. This is dead, right? There's nothing going on there. Just consume and eat. But like awake, alive, aware, like fucking intelligent like this, no, it's rare as fuck. But according to Fermi, there should be at least 10,000 between the 16.8 billion years ago that the universe came into being, and now there should have been at least 10,000 between the beginning and absolutely right now. 10,000.
10,000
civilizations
Fermi
of our level or greater.
The Fermi equation has a hole in it, though, which doesn't take into account the duration of time. It only talks about the infinite amount of space plus blah blah blah. It takes on several factors, but it never actually gets into time. So is that kind of why you're thinking? That's what I was gonna say. Is that why you're thinking that like there will be and can be, but there isn't currently?
There were no 10,000 now. No, just from then, from 16.8 billion years ago, roughly whatever the number is right now, to now, roughly 10,000. Right at not at the same time, just in total.
Yeah.
So
Which
the chances
is a
that
very,
they could
very
exist
small
at the
number
same-
in the size
very small number,
of the arena
very small number.
that we're talking
Very-
about. It's like
Absolutely,
trying to
yeah.
count. It's like trying to count the amount of ants in an anthill in the middle of like a stadium.
Where we exist on the time scale, if you broke up the entirety of the time from the Big Bang till now into a calendar year, we are December 24th. No, we are December 31st at 11:59 p.m. If you,
Caleb,
yeah.
you remember my my analogy I was making earlier, where I was discussing that like an hourglass full of grains of sand, and all of the grains of sand that were brown were basically planets that potentially could house life, but grains of sand that were black were ones that actually did at some point have life and possibly sentient life. Okay, does his discussion kind of sound similar to what I was talking about with that? So what? So, I actually do agree with you, Nevin, to some degree. I think that it's not very likely that we coincide side by side with, like, intelligent species, so much as I think that while there is a vast, like, potential for it to occur over a large space and time, but space and time are two separate infinite things that are intersecting. So, to think that, like, something intelligent with technology, the ability to communicate, etc., is visiting and keeping it clandestine feels very unlikely. But I actually have theories myself as to how this all came about. I wanted Caleb to throw his out there because I think he had some interesting stuff. Plus, I know Caleb is familiar with Graham Hancock and whatnot, so I'd like to hear his take.
Just so you're aware, though, by the time we do start spreading out through the universe, it's not going to be us. It's going to be the machines that we create, right? With our Van Nuys probes and everything. So it's very possible that any civilization that advanced to the point of doing that, probably it's just machines at this point. And what the fuck purpose would they have to even talk to us?
Yes. Yes. The idea
yeah, but that's
that...
like fan fiction.
I mean, it's about as plausible as any other visitor theory.
But there's no hard basis. Yeah, so your body has been evolving for such a long time to this point, but it's literally just a means to transport around your brain and your nervous system, right? Everything else attached to you is just means for that. So, without digitizing yourself, you would be just a brain. You wouldn't need legs or anything. We with drone technology, right? Like, all right, so we just came out with drone technology, but you'd think that aliens would definitely have it. So, like, if you have the ability to develop all of these technologies, like, you're not going to get into a ship and fly here, right? Why would you do that? You're going to send a drone or a robot, or you're going to use your super powerful futuristic space telescope to just look, right? Like, why would you actually get in a ship and fucking drive here and then crash your ship? Like that.
Hey,
no.
Nevin, hang on. You're not letting him have his say. We didn't sit here and argue with yours. Let him talk.
I'm gonna listen now.
Okay, yeah, so you were saying the Greys being possibly humans ourselves, but are visiting from the future. Okay. Yes, I have heard that, and I think that one of the theories that tried to support it was like the footprint that showed like treads that didn't match up with anything in terms of like anthropology and footwear, but seemed to be more like a modern foot tread, but dated to a really long time ago. It was kind of strange, but there's all sorts of anomalies with carbon dating, so again, like Nevin was saying, not necessarily rooted in too much evidence.
Thank you.
Okay. So it would be kind of like if you took like a modern day teenager with a lot of technology and sent them back to the medieval times, they'd be perceived as a wizard or a godlike being.
I'll take that.
They'd have at their disposal a lot of tech and power that would be perceived by human context at that time as being far beyond what a normal peasant would have. Well, I do think context is important, and we only have so much of it to apply with written history, so I don't have a problem with a lot of that. Do we think that there is two lines here, and I'll start with Greg because I think I already know his answer to this, but is there both, in your opinion, because it sounded like there was some willingness on everybody's end except Nevin and I to agree that there's some sort of external, we'll call it extraterrestrial or sentient species that has contacted Earth in some way. Do we think that there's a separate line to describe skunkworks, black ops, undisclosed technology that's separate from that, or is one pushing the other?
Come on. I want to get the kettle on.
Shut the fucking door!
Yes. I sure am. Why? Okay. Frankie, do you think that the government has advanced technology that seems similar to what we would call alien tech? And if not the government, maybe somebody?
I don't think that we... Do I think they have advanced tech? Yes. Do I think it's advanced tech that they came up with themselves? No.
Do you think it was like reverse engineered, like Independence Day, where they take an alien craft and make it their own?
Yes.
Okay. I like the question mark at the end of your yes. You're not so sure.
Okay.
Don't
So-
change the subject.
I'm not.
Sorry, I've been kind of stuck on this thought earlier that Caleb said, something about time being like a loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the gray men are actually us, or
Mhm.
you know, advanced life or whatever. And it's advanced future us is trying to get in touch with us in some way.
Okay.
Or maybe they're trying to indirectly affect things, choices, events to prevent certain things from happening.
Oh, like the John Tidor story about the man that was sent back from the 2030s to find an IBM computer to save the world from some sort of like power energy issue. Did you guys hear about that? John Tidor is a very interesting story. Some of the things he said came true, some of the things he said didn't, but to accommodate for that, he did mention that in time traveling you go to different world lines, you're not exactly going back to your own past. And so, in some ways, he did go what he considered to be like on a suicide mission because he'd never be able to return back to what he knew to be his own timeline or world line, as he referred to it. Look it up. John Tidor is a very interesting case of somebody hopping on the internet and being very not trollish about alleging to be a time traveler. And this also happened in the late 90s, early 2000s. So it was during a time when LARPing and trolling and stuff like that wasn't as prolific in that regard. I'm not saying it didn't exist, but
Alright,
you guys probably feel where I'm coming from.
It's my turn.
Well, I think we need to get to Caleb. Tech that has been reported, like we've been talking about. You and I had mentioned this prior to everybody else hopping in. So, like the tech that is widely reported as being, witnessed in use, sightings, etc. How much of that do you think is truly non-human, and do you believe any of it is being manufactured, used, developed, etc. by humans? Okay. I think as I was mentioning to you, because my dad took me to some of those discussions when I was young, I think that I hybridize a lot of what Bob Lazar says, and I mix it into what Graham Hancock has to say. And it seems to me like if we use Occam's razor and take the simplest solutions from those two situations, it makes the most sense to me. But I'll outline my belief once you guys are all done. Nevin, what do you think? You alive, Nevin?
Yeah, I'm back now. I don't know what the fuck the internet's doing today. Oh, I think I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. Oh shit, I didn't even do that.
Alright, you guys stay up there.
Okay.
Okay. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Bad feeling about
No.
this.
I don't.
No, you don't.
I
What?
really don't think that we got tech from aliens.
Okay.
Because, if you're going to build something that is going to travel in space and go a long distance and, like, be any kind of, like, and get into our atmosphere and fucking travel from another star or wherever, it's gonna be a little bit more advanced than the little bit of tech boost we got in, comparison, right? Like,
Do you think we know about everything in terms of tech that's available?
do I think we know? What do you mean? Do I think, like, if... What?
You don't think that there's, like, unreleased tech that is man-made but not disclosed to the public?
Like, what would there be? Like, I can't even possibly think of a possible single thing that would come from a spacecraft that we would be able to figure out yet. Like, we understand chemistry, we understand the biology, and we understand fucking materials and metals and literally how the periodic table works. And even if when we haven't found things on the periodic table, we can still speculate as to what they'd be like just based on their actual makeup. So I don't know what could possibly arrive on some sort of craft that we wouldn't have been able to get the information we wanted out of it by now, unless it's some sort of data. But even then, with the advent of machine learning and
Yep. I also think that was part of just to crash in there, that was part of what I was mentioning earlier to you, Caleb, is I think that that was a secondary product of the Manhattan Project. That the increase in sightings after World... I don't know how much of that, again, like I'll say, I think that because the increase in sightings after World War II, that the whole idea and notion that like nuclear weapons are what created the a quote-unquote attention grabber for something not on this planet to come here, and that's why people started seeing things in the sky more. I think that's backwards. I think that the nuclear program was necessary to create materials to create the first gravity-defying weird physics technology that we now see a lot more of.
Gravity-defying weird physics? What are you talking about?
What do you mean, what am I talking about? Like, for instance, there's several naval pilots that have gone on record and shown evidence of video of gravity-defying, physics-defying air flight.
Okay. Okay, but give me some solid proof, bro. Give me some solid proof even one time.
There is solid proof. There's actually multiple instances of military released footage now over the past few years. Yeah, the Tic Tac video is a very good example, but there's also a fleet video showing air flight that is not normal.
Okay.
Yeah, there's that one and a lot of also, well, go on, Nevin.
I'm sorry. I just, I don't know what purpose somebody would have to send a ship here.
Oh, I'm not arguing that this technology is somebody sending a ship here. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's clearly some sort of technology in existence that we're not being told about. The origin of it is what I'm arguing. Maybe.
Oh, shit.
That...
I'll take that.
What? No. If you master the technology of time travel, there's literally no need to change the past. Because by the time you get to that point, there's nothing you can't overcome in your environment.
I don't know if...
Who cares if we fuck our planet into a coma?
I don't know if I agree with it either, but I would also argue that maybe the motivations behind somebody that can develop time travel may not be totally clear to someone like us. It may not even necessarily be to change the past so much.
We're so insignificant. Like,
oh, that's relative.
To our planet? How
No,
long
I'm
we've
just
been on here
saying...
versus how long it's been here, and versus what we can actually do to it.
I'm saying significance to your frame of logic may not be the same significance to somebody else's, and somebody that might be capable of developing that kind of technology in a human mindset. Because again, remember, I'm never arguing for alien extraterrestrial existence. For extraordinary claims like that, I need extraordinary evidence, not just blurry footage and third-hand accounts. But I will accept that throughout most of human history we have hidden things from each other and from ourselves, and that technology probably does exist outside the realm of what we consider, to be just, currently advanced. Like, I do believe in advanced technology being drip-fed to us through military programs and through social engineering. I just don't believe it to be alien in origin.
I agree with that.
My theory on it is a little more no-nonsense, but it does get a little fantastical. Because I also do believe in one thing beyond all of this, that as much as I might be hard-nosed about I need extraordinary evidence for extraordinary claims, I do think that some of the most unexpected and most... We live in a very absurd reality where there's a duality between things that seem to just fit into the scheme of things, and the most unexpected crazy shit will just happen, and that's just what it is. Some things that just don't seem like they should are. And so I'm always willing to take that into consideration, but I don't think that to be the status quo. So I do think that if time travel ever becomes a thing, Oh shit, I'm completely out of ammo. Anybody got an ammo drop? AR ammo?
What's that?
I've been sitting here talking and just fucking bullet spraying. I'm just gonna have to start stabbing motherfuckers. Anyway, so, I have a theory, and that was why I was asking some of these questions. I'm not leading these questions either, it's just I was kind of curious what you guys thought about it, because a lot of these questions I'm asking, I've asked myself quite a bit, and at the end of the day, I do not believe that we've been, like, I don't think humans' civilization origins are the result of anything external to the degree of what some of us have been talking about tonight. Now, I can't say for sure, and I wouldn't be like 100% shocked if it came out and extraordinary evidence was presented that, yeah, we're like the baby byproduct of, you know what I mean, like some fucking alien civilization. I'd be like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense, I guess. But for me, I believe that we are the second or maybe even third era. Did you go down? Okay. Let's go get him. Let's go get him. I think that we are the second or third wave era byproduct of a global civilization that our species had developed a long time ago. According to Graham Hancock, there seems to be evidence, according to archaeological finds, underwater discoveries, that there were man-made structures beyond what we even could probably develop with modern technology, dating upwards of almost even 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. Now, with that in mind, I think that what we see with some of the technology and a lot of the reports of things fit in closely with some old discussions about ancient Indian aircraft technology, referring to a previous global civilization where ancient India had access to something called vimanas, which were allegedly floating or flying platforms and could be looked at as discs or saucers. There's discussion in depth about the travels that they had both to the moon and beyond there. There's a lot of interesting correlations between the descriptions of that technology and some of those people and modern descriptions of what are called little green or gray men. And it's even argued that there are, if this theory is true, that there are components of a human civilization that have left Earth and returned after long periods of time, and could then be so different looking based off of evolutionary changes, cultural changes, genetic changes, the effect of long-term space travel, whatever you want to call it, that could be construed as you're a different species. Now, I know all of this is woulda, coulda, maybe wishy-washy shit, but there's actually some pretty interesting studies done by people that have even made their way all the way over to Harvard and have been accredited with their archaeological studies regarding ancient Indian technology and the value behind their hidden libraries. And one of the things that lends a little bit of credibility to this is Hitler's obsession with heading out towards India to want to find hidden libraries and actually having some of those search parties return. And those search parties returning coinciding very shortly thereafter with V-2 rockets, jet technology, and another obsession that really hit hard with the Nazi expeditions, which was to go to Antarctica. So, I believe that our planet had a global civilization, and that they had tech that may have even exceeded what we consider to be modern advanced tech today. And it was based in a different platform and a different energy source, maybe even some really weird esoteric sounding shit, but nonetheless, it was what they used. And this explains the global imprint or seeming appearance of influence all around the world of something that appears advanced. All the markings and all of the indications of stuff are either the shadows or remnants or discussions of what was once, right? And then after a major collapse, be it either through any major society gets too advanced with weaponry and technology, they knock their own feet out from underneath themselves and they reset that shit back down to zero. And eventually what was once history then becomes myth and legend, and then becomes conjecture, and then becomes stories that then become reality again, and it's that weird cycle of time. So I don't really believe in alien influence so much as I think that certain groups of people that we all do know exist hoard information. They hoard that information like motherfuckers, and they pass it down generationally throughout the entirety of known history so far. And a lot of that information may not have made a lot of sense because of the lack of development, infrastructure, and context, but as we've developed as a species again back into this new era, some of that information and some of that technology and some of that stuff started to take on a more clear context. And that's why it seems like things like society and technology and the way things go almost seem so conspiratorially planned. It's why certain evil agendas seem to transcend a normal human life. And it's because there are things that have been in motion since the beginning of this particular era that are actually just carryovers from a previous one in which groups of people were able to retain knowledge, information, etc., and have been using it to their advantage.
I said the lolly lulelo.
The lolly lulelo?
Yeah.
Well,
we cannot wait for those caught on the other side. Hope one out.
and that's fine, but again, remember my statement, and it's that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and there's nothing extraordinary about the claim that man is selfish, inherently corrupt, and hungry for power. And when you have a oh shit situation where you have tons of people that are dying left and right due to some sort of global cataclysm, be it due to a large-scale war where Atlantis was wiped out, because that's where I believe the last time it was ever seen. That's my opinion, was that a large landmass was wiped out off this fucking planet because they got either too strong, too powerful, were coveted after, or they said the N-word too many times. Who knows? But they were fucking wiped the fuck out, and the effects of that on our planet were ensued in floods, and they ensued in a new ice age. And both of those things line up with a lot of very strange historical artifacts and relics that, when dug into and translated from ancient India, describe basically a nuclear fucking war. And that there were soldiers that essentially threw themselves into the nearest bodies of water in order to wash themselves from what could only be described as fallout. So there's more likelihood for me to lean towards the idea that man is corrupt and man is willing to utilize whatever he can against his fellow man than there is for me to believe that we obtained secret knowledge from a very and again, you know, like I said, I'm willing to own it if I see it, but based off of the discussion we had earlier about like even the Fermi equation, time is not taken into consideration, and to think that another civilized species took the time to get here and not make themselves very well known is extremely odd. So there's some strange behaviors surrounding an alleged intelligent species unless there's a deeper agenda outside of my knowledge, but I can't rationalize why you want to keep your existence not known to us. Especially unless it's like a control in the whole science experiment that Frankie's theorizing about. But after a while, we've become so self-assured of the idea that aliens exist that they've practically become the new religion, the new faith-based idea that something out there in the sky must exist and it must be much more advanced and knowledgeable than us. What if we did discover aliens, but they actually weren't all that much more advanced than us, and we're actually kind of worried that we're outpacing them, you know? Like, it's not just always that they've got ray guns and advanced tech. Maybe we have the advanced tech. Maybe all these flying saucers are just fucking digs. They're pulling this shit out of the ground and figuring out how to make them work off of old texts and putting two and two together, you know? We also got to remember that Operation Paperclip brought a lot of German scientists over after World War II. And those German scientists weren't just studying rockets. Those motherfuckers were in deep with a lot of the archaeological and a lot of the library finds that they were digging out of India at the time. The Himalayas. Those old secret libraries that were in the fucking caves out there that were basically banned from anybody to ever go into. And yet they were doing it, you know? So I can't help but to put two and two together. I'm more likely to believe in the corruption of humans and the weirdness of man than I am to believe that, you know, Paul the alien showed up and decided to start using tech to advance us. That's so Stargate that it's hard for me to buy. Is it completely impossible? No. There's always a possibility of these things. I'm always open to it. It seems more likely that Nevin has the right of it, and it's that the best we're ever going to find in terms of any sort of advanced microbe or life is going to be frozen away in Europa, or another moon that's really close to a gravitational well that's protected. We're lucky because Jupiter is literally the only reason we're even fucking here and developed this far. If Jupiter wasn't there, we wouldn't have that linebacker blocking all the meteorites and all the fucking comets that wanted to knock our asses off of here like a, you know, like a surface nuisance.
Most solar systems similar to ours. Like I said, the gas giant typically is the closer one to the planet, which means we wouldn't be protected from all that fuckery.
So that's my theory in a nutshell, is that the statistical likelihood of us existing, coexisting, with the amount of time that's even elapsed here on Earth, it's been very minuscule compared to the amount of time that ever has existed and ever will exist. And so when you take the infinite amount of time and add it into the infinite amount of space, we're pretty fucking lonely. And I think our biggest fear is going to be when we finally do become an interplanetary species, worrying about whether or not the other planet with humans on it don't really think we're necessary anymore. That's why I wish for humans to become dangerous but disciplined. Not warlords, not fucking crazy, nuke-hungry fucking people. We need to be dangerous but disciplined. We need people to look at us and go, oh, that's a dangerous species right there, and I don't want to fuck with them because they are good at what they do if they choose to do it.
Well, that's
you know?
because democracy is the fucking problem, so...
It is the tyranny of the masses, but as of yet, aside from a democratic republic, in my opinion, still outweighs anything else.
No, digital democracy.
There's entirely too many keys handed over to digital oligarchs in that situation. I disagree. You're already living through a tyranny of it. Yeah, I'm about to go down too. I need to eat some health. Hang on. I'm going to try to heal up with some stabs.
Here you are.
Green beans? What the fuck? Those things heal you up pretty good.
What are you playing?
Back 4 Blood. They updated it with some new weird shit. But again, I will always make that argument. Occam's razor to me is that humanity's influence and its willingness to be good and evil far outweigh my willingness to believe in some interdimensional being's relationship to the genesis of our creation. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Meanwhile, what's up? Yeah, no.
Looks like that was your step.
Not good.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
I have dogs and fire.
I think that our sentience, our sapience, our self-awareness, I'm being eaten alive. I think it all is tied into a dietary thing, and it's a combination of Tobler's Law, where the locality of our choices for dietary decisions and those changes and our need to adapt certain circumstances around that, such as like mushrooms being one factor, having to heat up our food based off of evolutionary changes again, like all the way back to like maybe even 2001, showing how monkeys really started to become feudal and utilizing weaponry and instilling a certain alpha nature to their hunt. It all still comes down to a dietary thing to me. Like, food was a primary motivator behind the changes for our awareness, and I think that that is still very relevant to this day. Like, our dietary decisions. Did somebody die?
Help.
Alright, we gotta do something about that. I think our level of consciousness surrounding dietary decisions to this day, I got them right here, make big waves in our lives. The level of consciousness you have around your dietary decisions will inevitably affect your ability to be more or less of a conscious, sentient human being.
So when we discovered fire and the ability to cook our food, that took away a lot of the evolutionary need for us to digest the raw meat, and essentially gives us more points to spec into the brain.
It's argued that we fueled the portion of our brain for that kind of sentience and for alpha behavior off of being able to cook and digest more complex proteins through that method. But again, that's always my answer. Whether it was the ape finds mushrooms theory or we ate something or the drive to eat better for our population growth, it always comes down to that diet. A dietary decision ended up pushing our brains over the hill into self-awareness. The idea of trying to fight off hunger long term. Because think about it, what was the next, aside from cooking and hunting and gathering, what was the next big quote-unquote technological step for humanity after that?
Agriculture.
Agriculture. And why is it that we started farming?
Well, because we realized that why did we start farming? Because we realized we could plant things and come back to them later. And
why do we do that? Why would you do that, though?
Because your family was getting bigger, and you wanted to keep your elders around, and it was easier to stay in one place.
You're thinking ahead.
Yeah, you're planning.
You're becoming very self-aware of your time and your placement within time. And what is that? I would say it's the fundamental building block for sentience. Your awareness in your place in the arrow of time and its motion. And the best determining factor and the thing that we based all of our timekeeping around, even almost to this day, is meals.
No, it's the sun.
No, it's meals.
It's the sun.
No, it's meals.
It's the fucking sun, bro. We've always based everything around the sun.
You're talking more on like a commerce scale because you don't need the sun still to eat.
No, but you need the sun to stay alive.
No, you don't.
The predators came out at night, bro. The sun. The only reason we eat 3 times a day is because that's how long the day is. Did you know a Venusian day is longer than a Venusian
ridiculous.
year?
That is so ridiculous in regards to the idea that people outside of your typical sun cycles, they wouldn't run off the same patterns. It was about when they would need to eat.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about people that live like in the Arctic. I'm talking about people that lived during times when sun cycles weren't exactly the same as they are now. It wasn't always the exact same as it is now.
When has the sun not been 24 hours away from itself?
That's not the point. I'm talking about, like, if you live, say, like, even now, we all know that if you're in Alaska, we know that you get different sunlight saturation. Am I wrong?
Am I back now?
Okay.
I'm back now. Sorry, let me re-ask my question. When has the sun not been 24 hours roughly away from itself?
Oh, you didn't hear what I said?
No.
Okay. When people live in Alaska and above the certain, when they live past a certain latitude, they all experience longer durations of sunlight and darkness depending on the season. But they still base their...
Why?
You want me to finish?
I do.
You should try harder. This is getting tedious, man. So I'm going to be honest with you. I would argue that it's dietary that pushes even the need for the want to be around a sun cycle. Yeah, I agree that on a large portion of like civilized Earth that would be the case. But I'm talking like leading up to that. What spawned the genesis for mankind to take on over that hump is where I'm getting at. You're still speaking in a completely different time frame as to like more modernized timekeeping and that it's based around the sun. I still argue that's bullshit, but it's relevant only in that it's not like I don't wake up because I have to get up necessarily, like especially if I didn't have a job, like I would get up and want to go eat. You know what I mean? Like the primary drives for man is really simple. It's to consume resources, to reproduce, and what? You know?
I'd like to think I'm a little bit more than that.
That's nice, you can think that, but that's your ego. At the end of the day, you really only serve a couple of functions on a biological scale.
No, I believe I have a more universal purpose than that.
And that's belief, and that's nice, but functionality-wise, you really only serve a couple of, like, primary directives. It's your biological imperative. It comes from needing to find food and to reproduce.
Sorry, bud. That's not me. Get the wrong guy.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you should believe. I'm just telling you what's widely accepted is like, come on, the base fundamentals for almost all biology is to consume resources.
On a biological basis, but on a spiritual
that's what you are as
a
That's what you are as a.
I am
okay, well,
being.
We can't talk about that because at the end of the day, we're only getting into what's quantifiable here. That's been the basis of this entire conversation, is like how do we quantify these things and how do we rationalize our beliefs around whether or not, say, aliens exist and if they've interacted with us. What is perhaps the Occam the Razor answer to whether or not maybe those technologies, archaeologies, all that stuff we can't quite explain but think might come from somewhere else, maybe there's a simpler answer to it. But when we simplify ourselves, suddenly we start to feel offended, like our spirituality isn't in line with it. That's horseshit. Spirituality in and of itself is not quantifiable. You are a biological creature, whatever word you want to use. You're a biological being, and you have purposes.
I am not a biological creature.
Okay.
My consciousness.
You're bound by the rules of biology.
No, I am not.
Those things that you're talking about degrade whenever you don't take care of the rules of biology.
Cool, and if I lived 200 years in the future, that wouldn't even be a fucking question right now.
Okay, but that's again a non-quantifiable what if. Okay, I mean, I could say what if like I was God, then no, I wouldn't have to worry about those things. It's silly, that's absurd. That's moving the goalpost outside the point of what I'm making, which is as a biological, natural being, an animal in the animal kingdom, you serve a few purposes on your biological imperative. Use resources, gather them, reproduce.
Okay.
If you can point to me a quantifiable means or method in which spirituality or intellectualism plays into that, I'd be honestly very happy to hear it. It kind of wasn't my favorite thing to hear either about our existence, but when it comes down to it, is we're not too different from fire. Is fire a living thing?
We're not playing this fucking game again, Lazarus. And absolutely not a living thing.
Why not?
For every reason I gave you before and ended the conversation.
I mean, it consumes resources and it
that doesn't make it
reproduces
alive.
given the...
That doesn't make it alive.
What is life?
I'd Google it, bud. Not only is this it's a very fun question, but the answer is very easy once you know it. And I would Google it right now, but I'm in the middle of a match.
What do you guys think? Is fire life? Mm-hmm.
I mean, fire needs air, and if you remove air from the equation, it dies, much like if you remove air from our equation, we die.
Correct.
But if you remove air from let's say a tardigrade or any other creature that doesn't require oxygen to live, it doesn't die, but it's still alive.
From what creature?
A tardigrade. He's using almost like a microorganism as an example.
Still alive.
Sure.
And there are creatures that
I also think
microorganisms that live in arsenic.
You're leaning into an exception to apply as the rule, and I'm curious as to whether or not tardigrades could exist always without oxygen.
I mean, isn't there... But if their body can metabolize or process the lack thereof, that's like creatures who live under the water. They are not breathing oxygen, but their body is processing water as a form of oxygen.
I apologize, Nevin, but you're actually incorrect. Tardigrades do need oxygen in order to survive. They don't breathe oxygen in the way that other mammals do. Yeah, apparently they do not have respiratory organs like lungs. They take air through surfaces of their bodies like insects.
Or plants?
So, I guess apparently if you deprive a tardigrade of oxygen, it also stops existing. So, I guess the fire analogy for removing air does still apply, but let's move on. How does fire reproduce? What's that?
Do plants require oxygen?
Do plants require oxygen? Yes, it could. Do plants?
Okay, but what is fire? Alright, what is fire?
I think fire is energy.
Mm-hmm. Is it tangible? Can you study fire?
Yes.
Is it just excited molecules?
Well, so are we. We're just a different form of complex excited molecules. I mean, neurons firing in your brain are excitable little molecules, yeah. The basis of what we would call at least accepted evolutionary cycles for the origin of life on this planet is singular, single-celled organisms getting real excited about each
How about
other.
this? How about this? Lazarus, is fire alive? Is fire alive, Lazarus?
Is fire alive?
Is it burning or not burning?
I believe that the presence of fire would indicate life.
Wait, what? You feel that fire is a living thing?
I think it meets most of the base requirements, but I was kind of curious what you guys thought as well, because I've heard both sides of this, and I had a hard time with it at first. I'm more open to the idea that it could be life now than I was before.
Over there?
I got ya.
Fire does not contain cells. Living things contain DNA or RNA.
Oh, that's a very, very traditional view. What about, like, potential other forms of life that we could discover?
Haven't seen them.
Crystal form base.
You said you had to be quantifiable.
There are crystalline forms of life.
What? Crystalline form of life. It is not
I'll have to pull up the info on that one, but I have found some things that indicate that they are considered life forms in crystalline form. Also, I was asking in terms of the conversation for alien life to be more quantifiable. We were getting really outside the beaten path there. What we're talking about here would be whether or not fire is life, and I can only pose like speculation, so it's not going to be quantifiable regardless. Besides, fire itself is difficult to be quantifiable because of its constantly changing form. I'm caught up over here, guys, inside this door.
Fire does not have DNA or RNA. It is not alive.
I would dispute whether or not that's still the only requirements to be called life.
That is the requirement of all other life.
Of all what?
All other life that we've seen. So, unless fire is the exception to the rule, fire does not fit our current standards for what we define as life.
Do you not believe that there's the potential for us to classify non-carbon forms of life? Do you just think that's absolutely out of the question?
There are oxygen-based life forms at the bottom of our ocean. What are you trying to say? What?
I mean, non-carbon-based life forms and the openness around that could then lend to other quantifiable ways of saying life is one thing or the other.
Well, if we come across...
Am I the only one that picks up an offended nature from him when I'm bringing this stuff up, or is it just me? I feel like Devin's sensibilities are so offended when I suggest that might be life.
The goalposts on me.
There's no goalpost I've moved. I've just asked if whether or not you guys think it's life. I said it might be.
Asked, is fire alive? And I said no, based on how we fucking categorize life now.
Or like aggressive when you were...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would use stronger words, but I'm trying to be nice.
You guys left me behind, by the way. And I'm getting wrecked.
Let's go take care of that, boyos. Yeah, I'm not moving goalposts. I'm open to the idea that it is. I was very against the idea that it was at one point. I'm not as steadfast in my definition for life, and in my willingness to expand on what I think could be considered life. I still feel like there isn't like alien life that's contacted us. Like there's nuance in my position, and I think that's what's frustrating you. It's not that I'm not as willing to be as absolute about some of the things like that you've been, and that's the difference here. Is like I'm willing to. Yeah, on the way. Wait, he's back this way, isn't he? No, I'm going the wrong fucking way. Jesus Christ, I'm an idiot. So yeah, no, I think there's certain nuance that I take with what I would classify or be willing to put into the category of calling it bio or life or whatever. But I do think it's interesting that,
Hey,
you know, you reject it so heavily.
You're at a friendly fire? It ain't gonna be too friendly if you keep that shit up.
Die, fuckers. I think that life could be quantified as something that changes and adapts over time.
Appreciate it.
Gonna patch myself up.
What do you know? Looks like we made it. You think this is a game?
Did somebody
Get back
pick
to
up the
team.
totem that I dropped? Okay. Alright, y'all just fucking left me again.
Keep up. Oh, Jesus.
Someone's been down. Looks like recently. Just as soon would expect to find a bedroll in a wolf's den. Better in my pocket than on the
Caleb, you got
ground.
anything to heal me with? Please?
Got to patch this up.
Thank you.
Oh, great.
What do you guys think of... What do you guys think about, like, giant structures on the planet that we can't describe? Like, because it seems like in terms of large archaeological builds, it's one of the rare instances in human history where cultures take a look and point at it and go, yeah, we built that, and when we ask them how, they say, we have no idea, we just know we did. Otherwise, most... The pyramids, you know, a lot of the Aztec and Mayan Inca builds, well, and isn't it also just strange? Well, isn't it also strange that it's one of the few instances in human history where people can point to something that requires tech, but they can't replicate it or have hung on to it?
Better than nothing.
I'm missing an eye and I can see better than you.
Today's not
Yeah, they're way underground. Yeah. Do you think they were intentionally? Do you think they were intentionally partially buried, or do you think an event caused that?
just
Mm-hmm.
why you don't want to catch
Why
an
do you think
infection.
that? Not necessarily like.
Much obliged. All these things are dead. No time for lollygagging.
Do you guys think that there are other species existing amongst us right now that are sentient? What about dolphins? They're pretty sentient. Do you think it's possible for us to uplift other species to that point of being sentient like us? I mean, we haven't even really fully quantified human consciousness. We haven't been able to deal with our own minds. Do we want competitors?
Watch out, laser! What do you think of this?
Have you guys heard of, I think his name was William Cooper, ex-naval intelligence officer who wrote Behold a Pale Horse?
Got you!
he was one of the, I don't know if he was one of the first to talk about Project Bluebeam, but he discussed the idea behind making aliens a mythology that were accepted slowly through the public narrative to eventually fake an alien invasion to unite humanity against basically a ghost cause, and that would be how they, the powers that be, would essentially socially engineer society into submission by creating the new gods, which would be aliens with insurmountable tech, when in fact it would just all be faked and staged using advanced technology and already existing UFO tech, as it was referred to, in order to stage these fake invasions that appeared to be done by an external source when really it was all being done as a false flag. You never heard about any of that?
Use one of these.
Mm-hmm.
This way.
You got a good point there. So ever since the Roswell incident in the 40s and the Americana sort of style myth building around, I need heals, by the way. Myth building around alien existence, the notion is to slowly drip feed into Americans' consciousness this idea of a extraterrestrial. You know, it just goes without saying, like, the more and more people you talk to, the more and more of them jump to the conclusion of, oh, well, space is infinite, and we can't explain the structures, and there's so many of these global symbols that just seem to be around pre-global civilization. When I'm sitting here like, well, was it pre-global civilization, you know? Or are we post-global civilization looking at a second era of it? I don't know what the hell that's about, but I'm turning red. Something's beating me up. Die, fucker. Jesus. Alright, guys, there's a box over here. Do we not want to do these?
Damn it. That's separated.
That's what I was thinking.
Let's see what you got.
Do y'all want this?
Got lucky.
What the fuck was that?
I'll take that. No time for subtle.
No, I suck with the bow. We all done? Nevin, you got real quiet there, bud.
I'm just listening.
How do you explain ancient structures that are really advanced outside of conventionally accepted theories? Like slavery or some shit, you know?
Like, can I have some specific examples, please?
Well, they claim the pyramids are just built through sheer manpower. You know, there's just so many slaves used, etc. Do you believe that?
the time frames that the periods were built were vast, and even by the time Cleopatra was in power, like the pyramids were over 1,000 years old. That was just a project that had been going on forever. And you see, yeah, slavery gets shit done. It absolutely gets shit done.
I definitely agree that it gets shit done, but how do you get some of the precision over such a long period of time accomplished with such consistency, and can't replicate it even in other instances of pyramidal built and builds in that area? There's a ton of examples of failed pyramids. Dude.
But the Egyptians, there was such a process, like a refined process for what they were doing. Like,
do you actually really believe, though, that like the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of like generational building required would have resulted in such a pristine, consistent build of multiple pyramids?
Yeah, because the people who were in charge of those things back then, that was your thing, right? You were an artisan, you were working. This is like what you did, right? Like it's very artisanal. But yeah, of course it's gonna be bad, especially when you got guys in charge of the project fucking whips and will kill you if you don't follow the plan.
Yeah, but
it's a religious experience, man.
To me, I have trouble with that because we've seen the the results of how slavery was used prior to the industrialization of even just our culture, and whips were used and a very consistent model was put into place, but nothing to that scale was ever built.
Okay, well, so sorry.
No, I was waiting.
So, but these aren't people back then. These people aren't people like nowadays, right? Back then, you raised people. You controlled the information that they knew. You're not gonna get some smart, mouthy fucking house nigger. You're gonna get some docile fucking creature who's gonna fucking do what you say because you raised them the right way to do it. This slavery back in those days, like that's product, that's machinery.
You gotta watch your mouth, Nevin. I'm recording on for YouTube.
That is the literal term.
Yeah, well, the literal term for getting my channel blocked.
Time to bug out.
We're discussing slavery.
Yeah,
you're correct. You're right. I will not say the word. I apologize. I did get permission to use it, but
hey, no. I don't know what that has to do with anything. I'm just suggesting know your audience. YouTube doesn't usually take kindly to that.
You're right.
In fact, my stream might have just got knocked down. Thanks, man.
Shit, I'm sorry, man.
You enjoy your night, you fucking asshole. Get some sleep. See what happens when you let white people hang out with black rappers? He gets a little bit of the chocolate stick in him, and suddenly he thinks he can just start dropping the hard ER word. I'm sitting here like, dude, like I'm literally recording this live.
I just don't understand why he was getting so bent out of shape. Like, we were literally just having a conversation of hypotheticals.
I think that he has a desire to appear insightful and cutting edge with his ideas because of where he lives. A lot of the people around him are going to be very fascinated with that outlook. Whereas we're kind of just more like a little more used to it, and I think that might have had an effect on how he was feeling received. And that's why eventually I was just like, hey, am I just the only one seeing him getting really upset about this when I'm just... Which was funny because I actually agreed with him, right? Like, he and I were actually on the same side. So you guys are kooks and you believe in aliens. Yeah, we're getting swamped here. What is the setting level? What's the difficulty set to here?
Recruit.
Oh my! I literally just got dropped. Like something just straight sniped me out. I was gonna say I had one that I should have been able to drop back there.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I picked it up when we were down in the hive. How did we get smoked on recruit? Run, 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 run!
Eat my leg.
What do you guys think about the asteroid belt? So I have a I have a working theory that the asteroid belt actually did used to be a planet at one point. That it's not an unformed planet that took orbit as a bunch of chunks of rock, but that it used to be an actual planet. And that again, something cataclysmic huge happened to it. And so being the fifth planet that is no longer a planet, but now just basically a bunch of rocks, that perhaps there may have been something there. Maybe even that was the cradle of known life in our solar system, and that a migration occurred from there to Mars and then Earth. Mars being not so hospitable, but maybe lending to some reasons as to why we've been able to find some perhaps structural looking shit there, you know? I mean, totally just, that's an off the wall theory, I know.
No, I mean, that's what we're talking about. Like, everything that I'm saying, I'm not believing 100%. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's always, if you're so sold and you believe
Excuse me.
that there's change your mind due to contradicting evidence.
Yeah, that was kind of what was taking me by surprise about some of what he was saying about the moon and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, that was a little like firm for some not so hollow. I've also heard that about the moons of Mars because they both, based off of scans, are indeed hollow.
Bing.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I don't know, just the whole, like, for what we were talking about, it seemed he was just very, like, set in stone, non-budging, like, not open to the idea.
Not quite my experience with him most of the time. He's usually very open-minded about stuff. That was very odd, especially because he was so excited about the conversation, you know? Yeah. Was not quite expecting that from him. I thought he was going to be a little more on board with opposing ideas.
And the fact that he got so fucking bent out of shape is fire alive.
I don't know why that annoyed him. I don't remember really getting too deep into that with him before. I don't know. I thought I was being nice. So, Because you guys know me, I can be a jerk. I didn't think I was being a jerk. Come on, back me up here. Was I being a jerk? Jesus. Now you guys got me questioning myself. Was I being an asshole to him? What? Did I hurt his feelings?
I don't know.
Frankie, of all people, you know. I'm just asking the questions. Jeez. All I'm saying is, there's 4 planes and 4 buildings that got destroyed, but only 3 of them hit their targets. I'm just asking questions. Yes, yes. Interdimensional space snakes. We get it.
Well, given how I feel about the government and everything else.
Oh, shit.
I mean, have you heard some of the shit that Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and some of those other names before?
What was the names? I didn't catch them.
Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon.
Hold
I
on,
don't
time
think those
out.
names are ringing a bell.
My controller's about to die. Because I'm getting like this weird back echo thing. And then the next thing that's going to happen is like this shrieking. So, I'm going to go.
Well, you have a good night, sister. It was good talking with you. Thanks for sharing your theories. Mom would be proud. Grandma's rolling in her grave.
Yeah. Alright. Well, I will talk to you guys later.
You gonna be busy this weekend?